What does a guy do when it's 25 below outside? Well, you work on the snowmobile so you can go outside and enjoy it. Looking like we're going to have some fantastic hard ice this year. Working on the race sled, I'd like to break 130 miles an hour and 1,000 feet this year. All we have is just an old Polaris Ultra bottom end with some aftermarket cylinders to make it 1,000 cc. We've got very, very, very mild heads, some mild porting it's making, maybe just over 200 horse. If you went all balls out, full drag, peak horsepower, you'd be well over 250 with this engine. I'm adding on the pipes this year. Last year we started to see that the RPMs were getting well over 10,000 RPM to make power. So I'm adding this little piece in there to bring them RPMs down. You lose a lot of horsepower, static horsepower, trying to spin the engine and the primary clutch that high of RPM. It's just a very inefficient way. So we can bring that RPM down, add more torque, and create more of a grunt out of the old girl. So I got the 3 pipes to weld up. I just got to do a basic cleanup on them. Looks good. I like it. It'd be nice to get it waxed up and whatnot. And then I want to add picks. I've got these bags of old picks. They're brand new, but they're yours. Been sitting around for years. They're just a mild steel, needle sharp ice pick. There are 7mm thread down there to give you a scale of size, but they're just a tiny little thing. And on the track, you can see the track. We get almost 3/4 of an inch penetration. You know, the lug is barely, you know, a ½ inch at most. So that 3/4 inch penetration on the ice helps us just bite in because it's shaved ice that we run on. So it's just such a perfect surface. Since it's a radar sled, all we care about is the miles per hour at the finish line. I don't care how long it takes us to get down there or anything like that. There is no reaction time because there is no starting light. We just simply, the guy at the line points, says it's your turn to go. So we usually run, right now we usually run like a 1.6 to 1.9 second 0 to 60 mile an hour because we're kind of rolling on the throttle. We're not just hammering the throttle. The 8th mile, the 660 feet, we're usually right around that 6.5 seconds to 6.9 seconds, depending on the setup. And that's usually gets us around the 114 to 116 mile an hour area. And then so far in the 1,000 feet, we've been pretty consistent the last couple years at just sitting at that 127 to 128 mile an hour. So I'd like to find some improvements, get my torque curve back up, find some clutching efficiencies. By putting in the new picks, I'm also going to be changing some stuff around on my traction to find some more efficiency there. Just do a good old cleanup on the sled. And hopefully I can squeak out a couple miles an hour to break that 130. And so that's him. And then we also tinker on some tractors. Dad's a tinkerer over here. This is the neighbor's 4320. It's his cattle tractor. The bottom of the transmission locked up. And so it's the bottom shaft on the transmission, and the bottom shaft on these old John Deeres was the quadrants here. You know, to get 1.3, your 2.5, your 4.7, your 6.8, them are your quadrants. That's the bottom shaft on a quad range. It'd be your A, B, C, and D. And that's the shaft over here. That's your pinion shaft. And that's where your A, B, C, and D ride on. And the gears themselves just have a bushing in there. What happened was the oil pump, the transmission oil pump, which also supplies hydraulic oil to the main pump, but lubricates this shaft. It has a fitting that plugs in the end here and pumps oil out these holes to lubricate this bushing so the shaft can spin freely, the gear can spin freely on the shaft. That froze up, or the gear broke, lost oil, and then it spun the gears. We actually had to torch a couple of these gears in half. There's a snap ring and a washer at each one of these grooves. We had to torch them apart. Everything just kind of melted together in just a nasty, nasty mess. But we got a couple good salvage yards close by. We were able to save the shaft. They found some used gears to use, and so hopefully by the end of the week or mid next week, Dad will have that together for him, and he can keep moving. But yeah, I guess when it's super cold, it's no different than when it's super warm. You just tinker and fix, and if not for yourself, for somebody else. And so, all right, guys, thank you very much for watching.